office Eagles, baby. Who saw that one coming? Back-to-back wins. Not the win on the weekend, the box office part. Back-to-back victories. And the Eagles are the talk of the AFL world. We have seen wall-to-wall positivity, praise, euphoria around the West Coast Eagles, Drew, which we haven't seen for a good 4 or 5 years. And it is absolutely beautiful.
Long live King Job. He has been a revelation to start
Arise.
the season. Yeah, not just the rising star in round 2, but then arguably a better performance in round 3 against the Power, and that mark just capping things off. And yeah, when you get these moments, young players, like it reminds me of how I felt like watching young Chris Judd and players just elevating themselves, figuratively and literally, and getting us victories and stepping up in big moments. Like, I'm sure so many of us, including you and I, as Port Adelaide started to press at the end and we'd missed a few opportunities, like that's a game that this group of players or this club would have lost, 10 out of 10 times in recent years. But we found a way to rally, for the second week in a row, fighting back from an early deficit and turning the tide in game. It's been so great, and to hear the club and players and people actually actively praising the club and getting around us. It's been an awesome few days.
Let's go straight to a point that you made there. So the feeling that we now have a core group to build the next premiership challenge on. I mean, that is what has happened so quickly. I think there's 2 big points out of the weekend win over Port, and we'll go through the game. But there's 2 big points that have come out of it for me. I'm just going to touch on the first one here, and that is these blue chip youngsters emerging. Not just very good youngsters, right? Not just a talented crop, legitimate blue chippers. And we have 4 of them in Harley Reid, Job Shanahan, Willem Dersma, and Cooper Duff-Tyler. Now, there are others that might jump up and join that group. Archer Reid, Bo Allen, Josh Lindsay. Who knows what comes of Elijah Hewitt when he can get his body right. Ruben Jinby wins an All-Australian blazer as a defender at some stage. Let's not forget how good Brady Hoff's been. He's only 23. But there are the 4 blue chippers that we can guarantee right now that are going to be absolute superstars of the game. And that is how you build your next premiership challenge. And okay, the 90s team was a bit different, but you mentioned Judd. So Judd, Kerr, Cousins was a bit older, but Cox, Glass in that team, like 4 absolute superstars you could build the side around. 2018, it's Shuey and it's Yo and it's McGovern down back. All right, he comes in a little bit differently. Natanui, even though he didn't play the grand final, they had started to emerge together. Gaff was in that team. Then you get that feeling, all right, we've got that top-end talent to build upon. And we've got that now. They are all Victorians as well, Drew, which is incredible. And how big was it to get Harley Reid to sign, not just for what Harley's doing on the field, but to feel so confident about those guys staying for the long term, because their whole vision of the West Coast Eagles now is so different. That's been the thing that's emerged out of these first few weeks more than anything else, is the standard of those big 4 and the others that might join them.
Yeah, it's been awesome to watch how quickly it's come together and how quickly and obviously they've shown their talent at AFL level, faster than we could have expected. But it comes off the work, some really good work from the senior players who have to lay that foundation. That win doesn't happen without Baker and Duggan down back. Waterman superb in front of the ball. Kelly tough around the stoppages. He's had his best 2 weeks in an Eagles Guernsey for a long time. And so when it all clicks and you get little moments from everyone, senior players pull their weight. I think Jake Waterman has been absolutely fantastic these first 3 weeks. And Harley Reid.
Immense.
Yeah, and Harley Reid has stepped into a whole nother part of his career. And I think it's so great to see him become an AFL mature midfielder and do the little things, do the hard things, and get the rewards with wins. Like, how happy would he be right now, reflecting on getting handsomely rewarded, signing a new contract, but also like he showed faith in this club and he's getting repaid straight away he's getting nourishment. And these young players who are along for the ride, you know, him and Willem living together and playing PlayStation, you know, as part of their pre-game routine, and Willem speaking glowingly to me about, you know, learning from Harley's professionalism, fellow number one pick. You know, maybe he wasn't as professional as he should have been in that first off season. You know, now Willem won't probably make the same mistake because he gets to see up close the rewards of doing it the right way. So that core group is so exciting, isn't it? And then I was talking on the Fox Footy podcast about this earlier in the week. You know, and I actually started that podcast by saying, you know, all hail the return of West Coast. You know, the all powerful Eagles are back, and now you can start thinking, all right, how do we furnish these guys? Like, what do we need? Like, what can we cherry pick going forward? How can we get this squad to come together really quickly? And maybe we're, you know, thinking we're too optimistic, or we're thinking too far ahead, or we're getting ahead of ourselves. But that's like this beauty of hope and young talent, like that it gives us this opportunity to really enjoy being a supporter again.
Yeah, there's no doubt the rise will be pretty rapid, but it's not going to happen straight away. The youngsters are going to tire at some stage. We've already got a few injury concerns around the bigger bodies, and we're going to have tougher tests in Port and North Melbourne, none more so than Sydney this week, coming off a bye, which we'll speak about. But yeah, that core group's a big part of why there is so much excitement. The other part for me, Drew, and Andrew McWalter spoke really nicely about it in his first answer after the game, after the win over Port, is the resilience and the mental toughness that's coming through in this group. So 2 wins in a row, on both occasions down by 4 or 5 goals at quarter time. So concerns for fans at that stage, especially on the weekend for me, I thought, oh, right, they've just got a bit too happy with themselves after the win and haven't quite come out with the same mentality. And then it changes. Off the back of Beau Allen, mind you, who we should I know he gets overshadowed a bit because of all the others coming through. His goal on the run and his big roost early in the second term, he gets us back in the game. That probably gets lost because it happens so early in the game. And then you got Shanahan's clunk and Dersma doing brilliant things and so many other aspects, Harley dominating. How big was that from Beau, those two moments? But for me, the one big question mark on Andrew McWalter coming into the season, and this doesn't mean that it's been answered fully yet, and we've spoken about it a bit, was, you know, can he inspire enough? Is he a strong enough leader? Is he tough enough? Does he have enough aura, which we like to talk about now? Or is he just a very good tactician? Is he just a very good assistant coach? And those questions were fair. We saw last season that the game plan had come together nicely, that he's taught the guys how to play and they were buying in. But that doesn't mean that you can take players to another level. But for me, the most encouraging part is, wow, they've responded, a young team, to that deficit 2 weeks in a row, especially away from home on the weekend. That tells you the mentality's starting to change really well. And the coach deserves credit for that. Still a lot to prove in that space, but it's encouraging.
Yeah, and just something that we haven't associated with the team or the club for quite a while. I think we all got into a headspace when momentum would go against us and a team would get a run on. That was kind of it. Like we weren't going to be able to stop them, and we certainly weren't going to be able to peg them back and get back in the game. So it's massive. It's what's probably added an extra layer of enjoyment to the last 2 weeks is that we've been able to do it under a little bit of duress. Perhaps the earlier start, you know, didn't help them in that Port Adelaide game, 9:30 Perth time. And obviously they would have requested the earlier bounce down so they can get home, you know, by the evening and they don't lose a day to travel. But so many great signs. And I think Andrew McWalter deserves a lot of credit for being able to hold things together last year, you know, in difficult circumstances with only 1 win. It's pretty hard coming in as a first-year coach anywhere, anytime, but to do it with a group that had forgotten how to win and was struggling and was at a low ebb, to hold it together and then get through the preseason. They're nursing 12 injuries now, the Eagles, so it's not as though we've had it all our own way to start the season. Had a red-hot Gold Coast in round 1. So they've had to do it with, you know, and face a little bit of adversity and find out a bit about the resilience and the character of the group, which I think is just so encouraging. And I think we see another level of that this week. Like, it feels like a bit of a free hit against the Swans. And now with Yo and Dev Robertson out, it's going to be a really interesting test for for Mini and what he does with the midfield. He was asked today at his presser whether they'd consider moving Dersma off the wing and moving him inside for the game. How do you think we'll approach the challenge this week without a couple of inside bulls?
I think like a Marek comes in, maybe a Tommy Cole. Brock probably comes in to deal with Sydney's talls. Whatever they do down back, I think it ends up meaning that a McCarthy moves into the midfield more. Hasn't it played much in the midfield to start the season, mainly at half-back, or maybe a Brady Hoff? I think that's where the move will take place. The defender comes in to reinforce the back line, which will be handy against the Swans, and then that just forces a bigger body to go into the middle more. I can see that. Baker probably steps in there a little bit more. I've liked him being used as, around the ground just to step in to the contest a bit more. He has such an influence there. I think they've got a couple of ideas as Minnie said today, to move the magnets around. So it's a big blow missing Yo and Robertson, those two big bodies. But, the way Harley's playing, the way Tim Kelly's playing, isn't it great seeing TK just excel? So that's another big body there. Graham and Baker, of course, we can manage, but it'll be tough against the Swans. Just on Kelly, such a really good game. And I just love that he's simply playing his role. The days of asking or hoping Tim Kelly has 35 and kicks 3 are gone. And I think that's helping him. It almost feels like, being dropped a couple of times last season, missing round 1, getting a new contract where it's pretty obvious he's there to be an experienced player. It feels like it's all come to a conclusion that he just has to play his role and not worry about being a superstar. Obviously, other players coming in and doing well, Harley going to another level and Dersma and others helps. But that is why I think he is playing his best footy, obviously since winning the Club Champion Award. Let's not forget that season. But playing such effective footy for West Coast now, because those expectations feel removed, the shackles seem off a bit.
Yeah, he's had a great start to the year, and we talked about how crucial the veterans have been. Jamie Cripps has started the year pretty well. I think Duggan's strung together, a few pretty decent weeks of footy. And you spoke about Baker. You could tell the difference that he made to the team straight away after coming back, having been suspended round 1. And I'm with you. I wouldn't be surprised to see him used through the midfield, especially if Sydney look like they're getting on top in that space in the clearance part of the game. But a few have noted that maybe even Adam Simpson about West Coast pressure. And hasn't that been just like a breath of fresh air for us? Like being a high pressure team, having that to lean on as a coach and as a playing group, say we won't get beaten in effort. We won't get beaten in pressure. That's our absolute one wood. And Port Adelaide and North Melbourne entirely wilted under our pressure over the last couple of weeks, to the point where, I don't know about you, but I felt like we should have beaten Port by 4 or 5 goals. But they were, for a long portion of that game, we were really on top. And we hit the post a couple of times. We weren't quite able to kill them off. But we looked a much better side than the Power after quarter time. They were missing a couple. There's no doubt about that, but so are we. So, it's interesting sort of realigning your expectations now as to where we sort of sit in the pecking order. We're clearly going to finish above Essendon and Richmond, you would think. The 2 wins may not get us there, but I think we just look a much better side than those two. And potentially we're ahead of North Melbourne already. So we've made up significant ground in a short amount of time.
How many times have you watched the Shanahan clunk?
Well, it just keeps popping up on my socials, which is, an absolute pleasure. What a mark. He's 8 deep. He comes from so far back.
You know what, mate? I actually have paused it a few times to actually try and locate where he is. Obviously, you see him mark it and then come down with it. But I'm like, where the hell did he come from? Because you see Ruben coming in from the side and a couple others in the pack, and you're like, how the hell has he managed to pull that in? You watch it, all right, he's actually at the back. And he's just watched it so well and timed his leap so well that he's actually got up above all of them, brought it down. What an incredible grab. Just in terms of a defensive moment, the Adelaide Oval, like reminds me of Eric McKenzie's late dive to force the ball away from or onto the behind post for a throw-in that final, which we end up winning. Like, what an incredible effort that was. I mean, this is not a final, of course, but another great heroic Eagles moment to win a game at Adelaide Oval.
So I wanted to do this exercise with you just without giving you any warning. So the 2024 draft, Jobe Shanahan goes to West Coast at pick 30. I'm gonna list some players for you, and you tell me whether you will draft them ahead of Jobe right now.
Well, I know all the keys because that's been the big talking point, all the key forwards.
Well, quite clearly,
that were taken.
He's going ahead of all the keys. But what? So Sam Lawler goes 1. Yes. Who are you taking, Jobe or Sam?
Look, tight call, but look, you'd have to go Lawler still based on what he's done and his draft predictions and so on and so forth. So I think he's still a valid number 1 pick, but not on what they've produced. I mean, in a huge amount of the AFL so far. Lawler's been very good, of course, when he's been fit. So, yeah, you'd probably stick with Lawler at 1 still.
Okay, Finn O'Sullivan or Shanahan?
No, Shanahan.
Jagger Smith or Shanahan?
I think Shanahan ends up being a more damaging player. I'd go with Shanahan.
Okay, Sid Draper was drafted at 4. Clearly, we're taking Shanahan ahead of Draper. Levi Ashcroft?
Probably still Shanahan. Yep.
Okay, so then Harvey Langford is TBA. Josh Smiley injured. Toby Travalia might be a miss. Leo Lombard looks decent. Alex Taru. Yeah. I think Alex Taru could end up being a very good player. Would you take him or Jobe?
Take Jobe, but Taru's probably sitting 3rd on that list, or 4th, maybe after Ashcroft.
I think Xavier Lindsay looks good, but still TBA if he's going to be a great player. Taj Houghton injured. Kako, not bad, but not in the same class. Jonty Fall, that was probably a miss by Richmond in terms of they could have had Jobe. Joe Berry, Bo Allen, Murphy Reid. Would you take Murphy Reid or Jobe?
Yeah. That's a line ball call just based on what Jobe could be as a key position player, but Murphy Reid's pretty special as well. Oh, God. I'll put Jobe there because we're talking on the nest, but Murphy Reid probably slots into 3.
Yeah, so I think in this draft, Finn O'Sullivan, Jagger Smith, Sam Lawler, Levi Ashcroft, Murphy Reid are going to sit in this top handful, and then Jobe Shanahan has a opportunity to break into that sort of top 5. And we've got
exactly right. Let's cut it. If you're doing a redraft, you've got Jobe Shanahan in the top 3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking him right now. Yes.
Yeah. If you're doing it right now, you got so, and I spoke about this on Mark Duffield's show on SEN. We've sat here and tried to defend at times. We've criticised them when need be, but we've tried to defend at times the Eagles' football staff because, you need to give drafts time to see how they pan out. And there's been so many decisions recently that have been criticised because fans are frustrated. Let's not forget how many key forwards we had in our list when we drafted Shanahan. So we had Waterman coming off an all-Australian season. We had our captain in Oscar Allen. No signs at that stage that he was going to leave, right? Kicked, 70 goals in a rubbish season, something like that, not a season before. We had Archer Reid, who we knew had talent. We had Jack Williams, who we knew had something. And we had Bailey Williams, who had plenty of games. We had 5 key forwards already on the list, all of which had potential. And we still went, hang on, we can't pass on this kid. Why is he still there on the board? How have Richmond not taken him? How did North take a Whitlock before him? Essendon haven't traded back in, despite him kicking 11 goals in 3 games for them in the VFL. We just have to take him. We'll work out the rest later. Massive tick to the Eagles recruiting staff for doing that, rather than saying, no, we've got enough key forwards, let's pick up someone else. Because now we have an absolute elite key position talent.
It was such a brave decision and to draft the best player available, but he was so highly rated going into the draft. It was always a head scratcher as to why he'd gone or why he'd slid so far. And then for North Melbourne to trade in to take a key position player and not draft him. In hindsight, it just looks like an all-time
Drewy,
I don't even think
can
they
you
even got, I don't
imagine?
even think they got the good Whitlock. I think Port Adelaide got the better one.
Exactly. Can you imagine North with Shanahan and Larkey? I
Yeah,
mean, David King would have he'd have a separate kangaroo show on SEN between 9 and 11 each day to talk about them.
yeah, it's remarkable, really.
They'd be a different football club. A different football club.
What it does for us, Garby, is it means that out of our recruitment haul, out of that draft, ends up being that we get Baker, we get Graham as part of that package deal. Bo Allen has taken massive strides after having a proper preseason and perhaps a little bit more confidence under his belt. He's shown us what he's capable of. And then you get Job as this amazing bonus who we get potentially 20 picks later than what he's going to be worth, maybe 25 picks later. It really makes that haul look a lot better. And it puts us in a great position going forward. We've nailed all of our picks in recent times, and that hasn't always been the case with this recruiting team, so it's very exciting. But yeah, thanks for doing the little Shanahan exercise with me.
This is an odd question to ask because I've just given you a massive pump up, or the Eagles recruiting staff a massive pump up. What on earth were we doing bidding on Harry Dean before taking Cooper Duff Tyler?
Well, we were making Carlton pay up, right? And was there, they sort of, Carlton messed us around a little bit with that Hawthorn trade when we were trying to get the Baker deal done. Were we paying them back a little bit there? Like, I don't know.
Because all the word was, no, that's where we rate Dean. And I know we need another key position defender. And, we probably have a little void there. And he'll probably be a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. But, God, you're not rating him above Cooper Duff Tyler on what we've seen.
No, well, not at this early stage. But that's only because Cooper Duff Tyler, I don't think any of us expected him to have the bag of tricks that he's got already. Yeah, it's been superb. So what are your general expectations heading into a clash against the Swans, who we think are probably going to be a potential top 4 side?
I think getting them off the bye is a bit unfortunate for us. I'm not sure what you think, but it feels like it's a bit of an advantage getting this early little break, especially because, they get Heaney back a bit fresher. They'll be smarting a bit off their loss to Hawthorn. They would have watched us and gone, all right, shit, okay, this Eagles team is the real deal now. It's going to be tricky. No Errol, but we're missing a couple of big bodies. I'm a bit worried about their 3 key forwards. Just we're a bit short down back, and not sure if Brock comes in, he's ready for that sort of challenge. So, Ruben will go to Charlie, I think, and then we've got to find a way to keep McDonald and Amadi quiet because they'll be hitting them up a lot. So, it's going to be tough down back to control things. Shanahan probably has to play a lot down back, so he should be able to make a big influence in that sense. But no, I think it might be a tough one for us. But what we have right now, Drewy, is momentum, mate, and it's the most powerful thing in sport, and Optus will be rocking like nothing else. I reckon Dean Cox is going to walk in there and go, shit, hasn't my old club woken up? My goodness. And the players will be jumping out of their skins to get back out on the field. It's funny how your body feels a whole lot less sore when you've got that feeling around the playing group. And, I think that can help us a lot, but it might be just a little bit too tricky. Your thoughts?
We're getting back to a point where, everyone's going to want to be at Optus. People aren't going to be giving away their membership tickets. There's going to be nothing available to be snapped up late because you don't want to miss a Harley Reid moment, or you don't want to miss the game that Cooper Duff Tyler kicks 5 and takes a hanger. Or Dersma has 30 and 2. Eagles are getting back to this appointment viewing stage. And honestly, we're probably not going to beat the Swans. I think the outs sort of pile up for us. I think if we had Milan Murdoch with his tenacity, if we had Dev Robb and his tenacity in the midfield, and Elliot Yeo helping to bodyguard Harley Reid and do his thing, I think we could really take it up to them, at least for a portion of the game. It feels like it's going to be a challenge, and I would love for us to be able to continue to just throw Job back rather than have to start him there. But there's a possibility that we might have to use him as a key defender from the start, and that's a shame because of what he's been showing up forward. So we'll give it a red-hot crack. I think the crowd will be raucous. It'll be packed. And hopefully we give a really good account of ourselves to just continue the good vibes.
Yeah, Tyler Young probably gets Logan McDonald or Amati, and then Brock probably comes in. If not, Shanahan plays down back. But looking forward to it immensely. Mate, with the box office Eagles now, we're going to get some big games, I think, later in the season when they redo the schedule. I think we're going to get a Friday night game, big game in Melbourne perhaps, because everyone wants to watch these kids.
Yeah, and it would be great to see us, rewarded. And, why wouldn't Fox Footy or Channel 7 want these young Eagles and have an ability to put them on a big stage? I hope that's the case, and hopefully we get another, some more moments on Saturday. That's what I'm looking forward to, is being able to really jump up off the couch and enjoy watching the young boys do their thing.
So exciting, mate. It's great to talk West Coast with you. Thanks to the Nest family, and bring on the Swans on Saturday night. You cannot write us off now.
Catch you soon, bro.